everyone, I'm Captain Logan, and it's Superhero Rewind Unscripted. Look, once again, it's Austin, the Day Ghost, my magnanimous sidekick, and tonight we are tackling part 3 of our countdown of our favorite 100 superhero movies of all time. We've been spending entirely too long on each part, but tonight I absolutely cannot go much longer than an hour, so we're going to see how many we can hit in that amount of time. And Austin, I'm gonna mess the whole timing of this up, because if we could go as long as we wanted to with 10 for each time, this would be 10 videos, but it is possible now that it will be more than that. I can't hear you.
It's been so long since I've done that. No, I just said it's going to be like the awkward 10-year anniversary thing with Infinity War and Endgame, where they end on the 11th year. But I also just did a
Yeah, what was that
thing.
about?
I also just did a stupid thing, and then I pulled up my list on my phone, and then the second we started, I threw my phone. So now I got to reach over and grab it.
That's amazing.
And now I'm ready.
We're both really on our game this evening.
I know.
We are a well-oiled machine.
We are just two wild and crazy guys, if you will.
We're like Phase 5 of the MCU. Okay, we're going to go ahead and get into our number 80 now. We've done 10 apiece for the first two parts of this, and once again, counting down our top 100 superhero movies of all time. If you would like to participate in the channel's top 100, you only have to list 50. We will get 100 out of that. You can click on the link in the description that takes you to the Google form that allows you to put in your own personal list, and we're going to accumulate those after we're finished counting our list down. This is part of why we're trying to do this every week, so that we're not taking months and months on this, and we can go ahead and get to the community list and see what you guys said, and we'll influence that as well. But you've got lots of time to do it, and Austin, am I right about this? If you submit a list, you can still go back and amend it, can you not?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that happened a couple times for people with the DC and Marvel one. I think if you just go back and submit a new one, it writes it off.
Oh, and I thought of this. I'm not saying this to give you crap or anything, Austin, but if you happen to keep having issues not being able to keep track of your numbers, you could always just go back and look at the list you submitted. Oh, but you wouldn't have submitted 100. You would have just submitted 50.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess that doesn't work either.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't thinking about that. Okay. Because I was like, because he was having issues with Letterboxd because he's got movies that are split into two, and so it messes his numbers up, and so sometimes he's not sure where we're on the list. And I'm like, well, and I was thinking, I had this thought the other day, that if you just looked at your submitted list, but it's only 50.
Mm-hmm. Now, when we get there, I can, though.
You could do it that way when we get there. Okay. Anyway. I was trying to be helpful.
I mean, it was partly helpful. It was half helpful.
It was half helpful, but it's going to be like 4 weeks before we get to that, at least. I don't want to have a lot of preamble because I've only got so much time tonight, but I wanted to get at least half of one of these in. It'll be really cool if we can do 10 in an hour. It is possible, especially if we start right now. And you've been going first each time, yes?
Yes.
Because last time we talked about maybe going back and forth, but we figure we'll just stay with the order.
It doesn't bother me. Like I said last time, if you want to start first, you can start first.
No, I want to pretend like 2 is a pattern.
There we go.
Okay, I'm excited to hear what your number 80 is, Austin, and my assumption is more and more these will turn into movies that we're actually excited about enough to not immediately lead with negatives. And that we weren't fighting with ourselves about whether they should even be included on a top 100.
Yes, there will be things on my list that I think people will be like, how dare you put this on your top 100 moving forward? But I think at this point, I'm locked in. I don't think I'm going to have... There might be things where I'm like, this is a movie that's very beloved. Here's why it's lower. You might see that kind of like what we did with Hellboy. Hellboy's not a movie I would say has to fight to be on this list. It's more so I had to start with negative to explain why it was so low.
Well, and I feel like I have to do this disclaimer every time. These are our favorites. So it's completely subjective, and it's just what we most would want to maybe go sit down and watch.
Well, my list
more
is
than
the
anything.
objective top 100 easily, but
If I'm doing this,
maybe his favorite.
if I'm doing this solely based on narrative analysis, it's a different list, and that's why we called the. Now, Austin could be doing this entirely differently than me, but for me, that would be a different top 100. If I was saying like the best stories. That's or like best characterization or like most like well-made movies. Those are all different lists. And someday maybe we'll do some of those lists because we might as well milk this for all it's worth.
All that sweet revenue.
All those clicks. Smash that like button. All right, Austin.
Comment for that sweet engagement.
That's why we're starting at 11:40 in the evening.
Exactly, and 12:40 at my time. My number 79. And
No. Should be 80.
Oh, is it 80? Oh, I dropped one because I was like, that has to be what it is because of the two-parter. Okay. My number 80.
I just want to make sure you're in the right spot of your list. It should be 80.
Oh, okay. I know. Sorry. I know what happened. Okay.
Look at your 81. It should be the last thing you said last time.
Yeah, no, there was yeah, okay, no, I got what's happening. Okay, my number 80 is, like I said, objective list.
Thanks for being here, everybody. We really appreciate it.
Objective top 100. My number 80 is the Toxic Avenger Part 3.
So this is maybe only the second or third movie you've had on your list that I've never seen.
I think so, yeah.
I have seen the original. I know you went through the whole, quadrilogy or whatever, or are there 5? I can't remember.
There's 5 if you count the remake.
Well, sure.
In limbo, but yeah, there's only 4 of,
the 4 that are available right now.
There's an animated movie that I didn't watch, but exists. Oh, okay. I assumed that was probably not great.
I saw the original in high school, and that's the only time I saw it. And that was so off-putting to me, I never looked at the rest of them, but...
So the Toxic Avenger Part 3
is this the one with all the weird celebrity cameos?
No, that's 4.
Okay. Sorry, go ahead.
No, it's okay. And 4 has to apologize for 2 and 3, so this is the first movie on my list that has an apology further on, but not the last film on my list that has an apology by the director. So the Toxic Avenger Part 3...
I'm sure I know what that is, but go ahead.
If it's only one movie.
I was going to say, if it's only one. I can think of 2 that might be on your list. I can also think of one that I know will be on your list that the producers and maybe even the director vehemently refused to apologize for, even though most everyone doesn't like it.
Oh, I don't even know if I know what that is. You'll have to tell me off camera if you don't want to try to guess at it. But
yeah, you do. But you're not.
Well, I probably just don't know that the producers
that they had that. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, that's all I mean. One of them, maybe even the lead actor, refunds people. Who knows?
Austin's what we in the field like to call a horse of a different color. Go ahead, sir.
So the Toxic Avenger Part 3 is mostly on here for its third act. It has an amazing third act. So the plot of this movie is completely insane. The plot is that he's defeated all crime, so it's basically the same setup as the Flash movie and Dark Knight Rises. And so he's retired and he becomes it's like a tax man where like he goes door to door collecting taxes. And then he gets a new job because his girlfriend is blind, because it's basically the Alicia Masters thing with the Toxic Avenger's girlfriend. And so he needs to get a job so that she can have a surgery to get her eyesight back. So he does that. And then the corporation, it's like the Armageddon Corp.
So that's actually an interesting premise, because I would think he would be conflicted about whether he would want her to get her eyesight back.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, there is like some stuff with that where they're like, like, is she going to like him when she gets her eyesight back?
We all saw what happened with the Thing's fiance, Tim Story's Fantastic Four.
Well, and then it ends up with a great joke, because like she's like wrapped up and they're like, okay, you have your eyesight back, and they pull it off and she screams and they're like, oh my god. And then you realize that it was because she saw the doctor, and then she looks at him and she's like, oh, thank God. You're not disgusting.
That's a good gag, actually.
No, it is pretty funny. So then the third act becomes completely insane. Like I said, the entire movie is, but the third act's awesome. The like evil CEO guy, because up to that point, the first two movies, like they're just kind of thugs, the villains. And the villain in 3 turns into Satan, and he's got like giant wings, and he's like horned, and he's green. And he's like
That's
he looks nothing like
nuts.
Satan, but it's awesome.
Wait, Dan's Den says Michael J. White is in that movie.
Oh, I actually didn't know that. I would have to look up to see who he is because I didn't recognize him. That's fascinating.
Is there
He was
anybody?
probably so young that I didn't recognize.
Okay, well, I was gonna say, is there anybody else in that movie like crazy prosthetics or anything, or is it just that you just didn't recognize him?
Satan. It's like maybe he's Satan.
Is he
That or I just
Satan?
did that or I just didn't recognize him. I don't know. Um, but once Satan reveals himself, he like puts the Toxic Avenger through different trials, and it's all super fun. And they just go like really crazy with it. And I was like, oh man, um, like this is what I would need in some of these like B superhero movie things where they actually bring in like a supervillain instead of just
Yeah,
I. And it was awesome. It was a lot of fun. So I've
that
not really a
sounds
ton of negative stuff to say about this one, despite the director feeling like 2 and 3 kind of suck. But
that sounds so much better than the original to me.
yeah, I mean, you might get more out of it. You might not.
Well, I'll have to watch it eventually. It's on the list.
Yeah, the thing I have with those movies is that for the longest time I assumed they were just super vulgar, like mean for the sake of being mean, and like sometimes, but like they have the tone of like Spaceballs. Like it's like a complete farce that like it never plays like that for me. So I don't know.
Well, and I only saw it before I was remotely desensitized by a lot of stuff. I mean, yeah, you got to remember that at the time I saw that, that was like a few years before, or at least a year or two before even Blade came out,
Hmm. But
which was
that's
a
what I
movie I
mean
couldn't
is
deal
like,
with in my late teens, early 20s, which
mhm,
sounds really weird to say now.
mhm,
Uh, but
yeah.
so I don't know, I had sensibilities that were easy to offend back then.
Yeah, but that's what I mean. Like you could watch it and be like, "Oh, like really? I was offended by this," or you could watch it and be like, "This is awful. Like, why am I watching this?" Like that's probably what you would still have, but you probably wouldn't be offended in the same way.
I probably wouldn't have a hard time sleeping at night or anything.
Mhm.
That was just a dreadful experience, but I was not ready for that.
Yeah, exactly.
But
And
my kids are gonna love it.
exactly. Dan Stan is also correct. 2 and 3 were split into. They were one movie that was split into two, and I've no
That's
idea how
wild because they don't
because
look related at all.
no, and they both have like really out there plots. Where I'm like, these don't connect in any way.
Yeah, I didn't know they had the Superman thing.
Hmm.
That's fascinating.
Oh wait, the Superman thing.
Well, yeah, we're like originally there. Superman
Oh,
one and two
sorry.
were
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
made to
sorry.
be one movie, and then that didn't work out because of Donner getting fired and Lester and all that. But
Yeah, no, exactly. What is your number 80?
come on, Austin, keep up, man. Keep up.
Well, I
I've
mean,
only been
my
making
head
the
went.
same points on this show for 15 years. I'm sorry, what?
No, my head went to like Superman defeated all crime and then became like a tax man. And then
Yes,
had to
that
get
happened.
Super.
My number 80 is maybe, I want to say maybe the first movie that you and I have done on the Commentary Rewind show so far. Maybe not. Maybe there's already been a movie on my list that we did together. I can't remember. Well, no, Batman Returns we did. So yeah,
Yeah, I
maybe
don't. There's nothing on my list that we've done so far.
okay. I think so far that's about it. Although we're
But I
doing
thought you meant the first movie we did together for Rewind.
no,
Okay.
we did do the Phantom, or we are going to do the Phantom tomorrow because, and that's just because it's on this list. But my number 80 is The Shadow.
Oh, okay.
Which is just kind of a fun, solid, good time. Austin and I did the commentary together a few months ago. He had never seen it before and enjoyed it. I'm curious to see if that winds up on your list or not. Obviously, you don't have to tell me right now. And I know that there's a lot of changes in backstory with that character made for that movie. That's not a character that I grew up with real hard and had a lot of interest in, and so I was certainly more open to changes in reinterpretation than I might have been with other characters. But I enjoy that more every time I see it, and I think sorry, names aren't coming to me right now.
Alec Baldwin.
Alec Baldwin, yeah, I think he's really fun in it. He obviously was having a really good time. It's a great cast. It's kind of a crazy cast. That's got Ian McKellen in it, which is so odd.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a movie I really need to watch again because I really liked it when we watched it, and I don't know if it was like riding a high when I first saw it, like if it would come down or maybe go up.
Yeah.
But I really liked that movie when we watched it. So I'm not shocked it made your list.
I like how quirky it is with its period setting. I like the tongue-in-cheek references to the radio show and the fact that it was a radio show. I think that the kind of referential humor in that is handled pretty well. And I just like the aesthetic of a lot of those pulpish and like pre-superhero, like proto-superhero movies of the 90s. And so you'll see a few of those on this list because and I didn't grow up with those making a gigantic impression on me, but I've come to appreciate and enjoy them more as an adult, and since I've done videos on them. Where there's this really cool thing that happened, I think, and it's unfortunate that most of them didn't perform very well. Nearly, whether they were good or bad, they almost all bombed. And like we're gonna do the Phantom tomorrow. I enjoy that movie fine. I actually think The Shadow is probably a tick better than that movie, and that's why it was lower on my list. But all of those are very, Batman '89 inspired, and I really like the aesthetic of all of them. Like I think that look was just right for those kinds of movies. And if you think about it, it's kind of remarkable that material is what more movies ended up going to '89 for than a lot of like mainstream big superheroes that were already popular that everybody knows. They're like contemporarily. Like a lot of these, and they were all different studios. Like a lot of these producers and filmmakers had the right idea that those are the things that '89 should have most inspired, because they have that 30s 40s gangster aesthetic, and they're very over the top and comic booky, very colorful. It's cool. Like it was weird when the Flash TV show did it. Because like that made no sense for that material, which is part of why it's fun. That show was hilarious.
Yeah,
but,
I really liked that when we watched it.
But that's what you want to do with a Dick Tracy. That's what you should do with a Phantom. And all of those movies had that look about them.
Yeah, I mean, you're exactly right.
Like if you're gonna rip Burton off, those are the appropriate things to rip that aesthetic off for.
And then Zorro waited a decade and then came out. And it was like, we're not doing that.
Yeah, that's true.
Which is just funny because you have like the Batman Mask of Zorro thing. Or Mark of Zorro, sorry.
Yeah, right. Yeah. No, that's a good point. And that feels like kind of the moment where we are starting to move away from them. You could also, and this might not be accurate, but with the exception of Superman and the way a lot of reviewers at the time, a lot of critics at the time responded to that movie, you could almost argue that in some ways, and I know you don't like this term, and I don't love it either, but just the way people reacted to it, Mask of Zorro is one of the first, like as far as critics go, like real movies that's based on a superhero thing.
I mean, like, I'd also like kind of agree, just in the sense that it's not trying to do '89. Like they're like, we're gonna make a Zorro movie. Like from that point of view, I can kind of see.
And it's heightened, but it's old Hollywood heightened.
Yeah, exactly.
There's a little bit of that in '89 too, with the kinds of gangster things that it's going to, but it's totally its own thing. Anyway, I'm just analyzing aesthetic right now. Austin, go ahead and give us your next one, sir.
It's actually really funny that we're doing this tonight. I'm very happy. My number 79.
I'm so glad.
Yeah. My number 79 is Ghost Rider, uh, which is a movie that is definitely a mixed bag. But I think the pros kind of win me over.
Because the villains suck.
The villains suck. I mean, we talked about this when we did Daredevil. Mark Steven Johnson is a director who thinks big and can't quite hit it.
Yep.
Trying to go for like a Western feel for Ghost Rider is perfect.
Yeah. It's a great idea.
Nicolas Cage is great. Oh my God, what's his name? The guy who plays the caretaker.
I can't think of it right now either.
Oh, it's gonna kill me. Sam Elliott.
There it is.
Sam Elliott's
somebody
great.
else say it.
The cover that they did for Ghost Riders in the Sky is amazing. It's so good.
But to me, the most infuriating thing in the movie is with him.
It's the let's ride.
I hate it so much. It's such a letdown. Because it's the most badass thing in the movie, cool. And then they just ride in a straight line, and then he goes, I can't go any farther than this, and then he just leaves.
But it's also so cool. Like, 100%, it's so stupid.
It's the most anticlimactic thing you could think of.
But it's also awesome at the same time.
You didn't even need to take him there. It was a straight line. All you had to do was point. Just give him a compass.
No, he fulfilled his duties. The effects for Ghost Rider I don't think have held up super great. It's like dodgy, like here and there. He looks really good, and other parts he does not. But overall, I think this and Daredevil are kind of like they're both trying for things that they don't quite hit, but are overall a mixed bag of things I enjoy.
I could see you putting them on the same level. For my own personal sensibilities, I can't do that. Just because I would much rather watch the material in Daredevil. And I also really like Jennifer Garner in that movie, and you don't have that. And I didn't dig Eva Mendes. Like, she did nothing for me in Ghost Rider.
But if I could have Kingpin and Bullseye and then Ghost Rider, and you take them and you put them in a movie together because they're like the biggest things that work about
that's right
movies, then
or just have those actors somehow play Ghost Rider villains. I don't know what that looks like.
Oh my God, Michael Clark Duncan would have been a killer Mephisto.
Well, and also Sam Elliott. Like leave him in there.
Yeah. Would
you go to if you did this with Daredevil, what would you do? Have Sam Elliott play Stick or something?
Oh, 100%. But if you bring Colin Farrell over and he's Blackguard, I just want the part where he's like, I want an Evan Fiery Skull.
He's got his fire that he just goes, ha ha.
It'd be awesome.
And he's Irish for no reason?
Well, because of course the son of Satan is Irish, Cap. What are you saying?
That's racist?
That's not racist.
No,
they're not a
not.
race.
It's not. That's a joke. That's why
they're barely human.
Oh my God. That's why I made it a question mark.
What is your number 79?
I don't remember if that was in my. I mean, I can look. That was in my 16 that were on and off the list. But I mean, I did kick it around.
I assumed Ghost Rider would just be short of your list.
Yeah, it's just short.
I also, I think, have like some connection to that movie, and that it came out when I was like 10 years old, and it was maybe the first DVD I ever got. Like, it was a movie I watched a lot. Yeah, I remember like going to my dad's being like, I got my copy of Ghost Rider. I'm going to watch it. And it had a trailer for Across the Universe that scared the hell out of me. But
my wife still talks about Ghost Rider because she cannot stop laughing at the origin for every piece of his costume.
I know, it's like, so funny.
The way it just evolves. And like, nobody ever asked for that. Like, it's fine if Ghost Rider just shows up already looking like that. But no, he's got to start he's got his flaming skull hat, and then here's how he gets his jacket, and here's how he gets his belt, and
here's how he gets the chain, and
it's very Smallville.
But at the same time, I also can't hear anybody saying howdy without my brain going to when he first runs into Roxanne Simpson. He's like howdy, 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 howdy.
Well, that's where I was first aware of Nicolas Cage as kind of weird.
Oh sure.
Like, that's the first movie where I got wind of that, where I was like, what's with the jelly beans thing? Oh, and he came up with that? And he has this whole idea that it's too cliche to have your main character like just smoking all the time or drinking. So he's like, let's trade it with a really odd vice, like jelly beans.
He's eating jelly beans and watching old cartoons.
Yeah, he thinks he's Stanley Ipkiss from The Mask.
I know, it's really funny. And his best friend is what's his face?
Oh yeah, he's Donald Logue.
Donald Logue, yes.
I don't know why I can remember that. He doesn't have a D though. It's just Donald. He has a weird name.
Donald. Okay.
He's Donald Logue.
Get a D.
just run the first and last name together, and then you won't do it. It's Donald Logue.
Oh, Donald Logue.
Yeah, who is in Blade, and then he is in Gotham.
Mm-hmm.
And those are like the main things I know him for. And he's like the only reason to watch Gotham. And like not all of it, but he's good in that show.
Yeah, for sure.
And that's really, really good Harvey Bullock casting.
He's got a trinity of comic book projects.
Yeah, isn't that interesting?
Mm-hmm.
He might be in another one, and I'm not thinking of it, but I think it is just those three.
He needs some sort of other, like kind of horror-y comic book thing, because that way it can be like a proper trilogy.
Sure. Yeah, one of these things is not like the others.
Mm-hmm. Well, one of them's a show. Like, he needs to be in like a Hellboy or Spawn movie.
Yeah, or he's not like the worst pick for a microchip or something.
Yeah, I could see him as Microchip.
Dan Schneider, $2 super chat. Make the real movie thing a GNN. I want that. Yeah, it's not a bad idea for a topic.
Yeah, I'd be down to talk
I feel like
that.
We've maybe kind of set our piece on it, but we could explore it a bit. Okay, my 79, we're not going fast enough here. My 79, this is just us, is Batman Two-Face. Which is
the Batman versus Two-Face, the Adam West one?
Did they call that Batman versus Two?
I think it is
versus in that title. I
think so.
Okay, I was thinking that is just Batman Two-Face. I think now that you're saying that, you might be right. But yes, that is the second and last, unfortunately, animated 60s Batman revival movie. They're both quite good. Cape Crusaders spoke to me a lot more. This was cool as a sequel because it was a bit more like a standard episode of that show. I mean, it still feels like a movie, but just in its plot, it's not as big of an event kind of thing. It's not about the whole history of Batman like that first movie is, and it felt like it was kind of getting something done that the TV show was never able to because of famously the Two-Face episode that was supposed to happen, but like with a lot of Harlan Ellison things, it didn't happen the way he wanted it to, and then it didn't happen at all because I don't know if you've ever looked at that treatment, but it couldn't have been made. It was it was so insanely expensive, everything he threw in that, and he didn't want them to change anything, so they scrapped it. And that's why Two-Face isn't in that show. And William Shatner was genius casting, and he does a really good job in that movie, differentiating his Harvey Dent and Two-Face voices. When you listen to him talk about that movie, he took the whole thing way too seriously. It's like he doesn't even realize he's in a campy thing, but his performance is just stellar. It's just spot on.
Do they use anything from that original treatment, or is it completely like an original idea?
It's an original idea, which I really respected because that first movie is not adapting anything except for just, you know, all the parody stuff that, you know, they're doing a little Dark Knight Returns, they're doing a little this and that, but the story is wholly original. So it would have been kind of weird if the sequel to that was adapting a treatment. And I also appreciated that they didn't do that because, well, I'll say this, if the comics hadn't done it, maybe I would have wanted that for the movie, but the comics did a standalone prestige format, like longer comic that was called Batman 66 The Lost Episode, and it does make a full script out of that treatment. So we had that, so I really didn't need the movie to do it again. And
But you are getting it with the cast, at least with Adam West and Burt Ward.
yeah, no, that's true too,
I can see it either
which is
way. Like
great.
I'm not being down on that movie. That movie I think has maybe the greatest villain plot of all time, where they just use the lizard one
It,
with Two-Face.
it's great. It's Lizard, it's Magneto, it's everybody that just wants to make everybody what they are, which usually I would find really lame, but doing it for 60s Batman is perfect, and just making everybody into Two-Face is really funny, and Robin
It's
turning
such an
into
absurd
Two-Face.
idea.
Yeah, it's really great. And they make this weird mystery out of how Harvey Dent is becoming Two-Face, because they do kind of the Dark Knight Returns thing where he gets his he gets plastic surgery and he gets his face fixed. And then, spoilers for that movie, but for a while, the mystery is you're wondering maybe somebody else is Two-Face, like what exactly is happening, and then it just turns out that it's literally Jekyll and Hyde, and he like physically manifests the Two-Face face back, and then he's able to make that happen to everybody else, and in a weird way, like it's exactly what you'd think it would be, but you don't call it because it's like it's kind of too obvious, and that's just what they do, and somehow it kind of works. But it's lower on my list than Cape Crusaders because I don't go back to it as much, and I don't know, for my money, it's not quite as fun, but it's still too good to not put on the list. And I'm just very, very partial to Adam West, and so and like I said, the Shatner casting is great, and it's really cool that if you're gonna do a villain that show never did, you went to an actor that would have been good then, and luckily was still alive to do it because he's already in his late 80s by that, or mid to late 80s at that point. But
I wish they did that with Hugo Strange and Harley because they show up in that movie. But I'm
yeah,
glad we at least had it with Two-Face.
me too, and I guess I don't care as much with them because they're just kind of cameos, and I'm already not sure about how I feel about their being there because,
Especially with Harley, yeah.
yeah, yeah, Hugo Strange is okay because he exists earlier. You're right, but with Harley Quinn, they made a big deal out of not wanting to do newer characters in those, and then they made an exception with Harley Quinn. It's just a cameo, so it's whatever. And if they'd done a third movie and they wanted to go full on comic book and make it about somebody later, that would have been maybe okay with me because we did the Two-Face thing. And so you could kind of go your own way after that, but just it's weird that they made that a rule and then they immediately broke it. I just thought that was kind of strange. But one of my only complaints with that is they didn't say special guest villain.
Oh,
I don't like that. You're supposed to say that, especially because you got Shatner. If it was just some guy, who cares? But you got Shatner and you didn't say special guest villain. It's incorrect.
It's wrong, sir. Remove this off your list. They ruined it.
They ruined it. All right, what's your... Yeah, it should have been 99. It should have been right under... The hell was my 100? Superman 4.
I mean, that's just Craig. My number 78. Like I said, I'm glad we did this tonight.
Robert says the villain of Batman versus Two-Face was Two-Face the whole time?
It was Two-Face all along.
It was Two-Face all along. Okay, 78 is where we're at.
Like I said, I'm glad we did this tonight. My number 78 is Daredevil.
Oh, wow,
Specifically,
you put it right
obviously,
next to each
the
other.
director. Yeah, I didn't realize how funny that was, though, and until like right before we started, like, oh, wait a minute. We just did a Daredevil book with Ghost Rider, and they're right next to each other.
I can't believe you put all the Mark Steven Johnson superhero movies together. Like, that's crazy. You put all of them together.
Because to me, they're like that. Like, they each
all of them.
They each do something wrong or right. Like, I could put them in one slot, really. And just be like the Mark Steven Johnson movies. I gave the edge out to Daredevil, the director's cut, just because I do think it is overall a little bit better at achieving what it sets out to. Bullseye and Kingpin are amazing. Ben Affleck is all right. So it's not like as bad as like the villains with
now,
Ghost Rider.
Can I ask you the obvious question?
Yes.
It's obligatory, but and of course it's coming up. And also we've done this movie on the commentary project.
Yep.
Does the director's cut not move it up slightly though?
No, like I'm specifically just putting the director's cut here.
Okay, so you still feel like even with that, it and Ghost Rider are next to each other? Because I feel like the director's cut elevates it some. Although you'll be shocked by how high it is on my list, probably.
Well, like I said, the director's cut elevates it to be above Ghost Rider.
But with nothing else in between.
But I feel like the theatrical cut would maybe be a couple steps below it. Like, so it bums it up a little bit. But it's, a lot of the issues with that movie are still kind of just like baked into it, like in terms of just overall presentation and not being able to fully achieve his ideas. And I don't love their Elektra. You still have stupid things like the park fight. But at the end of the day, like I like that movie well enough. Like it is a lot of fun. I don't get the like intense hate that some people have for it, because
Yeah.
I still see that a lot.
Well, and the TV show hurt it for me on rewatch when that first came out, and I was so impressed with it. And I've leveled back out on it again, where now, especially when you have, I was going to say, especially when you have more seasons of the Netflix show that aren't quite as good as that first one, but maybe that's not even why. I think I'm back to just the appreciation and, yes, maybe nostalgia a little bit for the impressionable teenager I was when that came out.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think for me, like it's just impressive how many things are kind of similar between the two, and obviously the TV show is going to be more in depth and better.
Yeah.
And the show is amazing. Like it is one of the best things. If it could be on here, it would be way higher than this.
Yeah, absolutely. I think for my money, I still would about say it's the best adaptation of superhero anything. I mean, like I said that back when it came out. I don't know that anything has eclipsed it for me yet.
Mm-hmm. When I like season 1 of Jessica Jones slightly more, but I think Daredevil's better.
But
So,
and this is splitting hairs, but just
yeah.
for me personally, I've never read Jessica Jones,
Mm-hmm.
and so
yeah,
I
and I
can't
haven't read
say
enough Daredevil too.
I can't
so
say
it's like-
best adaptation. I can say great show,
Yeah, no, of course.
but I can't connect it to the source material. Well, I have read some Jessica Jones, but it was volume 2, so it doesn't count.
Oh, okay. Is
It
that
was-
stuff any good?
Yeah, I liked it a lot.
Oh, okay, cool. I've always wondered. I've never heard anybody talk about it, but I love Alias. Alias is a great comic.
It is unfortunate that there's a really interesting subplot that it introduces at the beginning that it kind of just drops real quick as Marvel is deciding maybe we don't even want to think about the Secret Wars thing anymore, because there's a character that is, if memory serves, there's a character that is like having flashes of another universe since the universes got merged back together, because they do the really weird thing with Ultimate where they cherry pick it, and some people wind up in 616 from Ultimate and some people don't, and so they make a whole mystery around a character that's like having flashes of like, I know I'm from another universe but no one believes me, and then they just totally drop it.
That's unfortunate.
And it was kind of a cool idea.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's like street level Jessica Jones trying to investigate this. What the hell is she gonna do? It was a really cool idea.
That's funny. What is your 78, Cap?
Meanwhile, Miles Morales like has no backstory anymore.
He just exists.
Makes no sense. I don't know what they've ultimately leveled out with that with him, but how is he inspired to be Spider-Man when there's no Peter Parker to die? Like, I still don't know what's going on.
Well, I feel like Jessica Jones is probably like quite a bit older than Peter Parker at this point now too, and I don't know if you know, like, do you remember in Stanley Ditko Spider-Man, there's the first issue with Sandman, and they're fighting in the high school, and Sandman walks in and he's like, "You're gonna give me a diploma, principal." Jessica Jones is one of the students in that classroom. Like, that's part of Alias, and that is probably not canon at this point. I would imagine she's probably quite a bit older than Peter Parker.
Yeah. I forgot about that. You or somebody told me about that at some point.
Mm-hmm. No, it's interesting.
Because I wouldn't have noticed it because I didn't know who that was. Chewbacca's Lover, $5 super chat. My dad wouldn't let me watch 2003 Daredevil because it was too dark. That and Hulk were supposedly too dark. Well, I mean, I don't know how old you were in 03, Chewbacca's Lover, but in your dad's defense, There's a couple of things in that first Daredevil movie that a kid young enough might be a little bit freaked out about, because I mean you do have impaling a hand in the third act. Like I could see a kid under a certain age, you wouldn't want to take to the theater for that.
Yeah, my mom and I watched that.
My sister was bothered by that.
Yeah, oh, fair enough. My mom and I watched that like a million times when I was a kid, and I don't think she's ever seen the director's cut. I think she only knows the theatrical version.
Oh, she's never experienced Coolio.
Yeah, exactly.
With his buckshot speech.
I should just go up to her and be like, hey, you need to see the Coolio cut of Daredevil. It's imperative.
No, what you should do is you should go, you know how you really like Daredevil? I just really feel like watching this movie.
And then I put on Elektra instead.
No, you just put on the director's cut. Don't tell her there's a director's cut. Just see what she does.
Mm-hmm. Just like, whoa.
No, things you've said about your mom, I think there's like a 35% chance that she doesn't notice the difference.
See, I feel like it's probably like a 70% chance. If anything, she'll be like, I don't remember some of this stuff.
And there's a really good chance that she'll go, wow, this is a better movie than I remember it.
Mm-hmm. I want it to be the opposite, though. She watches it and she's like, oh, it's kind of worse.
Or she's like, Coolio was always my favorite part.
He was living in a Daredevil's paradise.
Anyway, is it my turn?
Yes, you're at 78.
No, 78. Okay. Okay, sorry. I thought we were already at 77. My 78 is Constantine.
Oh, okay, nice. You're just like, I can't explain it.
No, sorry. I was trying to decide where I want to start.
Yeah.
That is one of those movies that I enjoy more, and I don't like to be a turn your brain off kind of guy, but it has a lot more to do with performances and some aesthetic stuff and just like particular scenes almost out of context. When I wrote about that movie, when I did the rewind on it, it hurt it a little bit. I don't like the voiceover thing with that. With the bookends, you get to the end and Constantine is telling us what the moral of the story is, and I fundamentally don't agree with him on the moral of the story, and that's weird. And there's some sloppy stuff in the storytelling here and there, but it is really fun, and I think that's the movie that made me realize I just full on am kind of a Keanu Reeves fan. Where it wasn't just The Matrix, I just like that guy and stuff.
Oh, it's cool.
Particularly like those kinds of action roles. Mm-hmm. And I also think that my wife's affinity for that movie bumped it up for me and made me enjoy it and appreciate it more, because she was just obsessed with that movie. And she wants to watch it every year. Even still, she just loves that movie.
So that is one that did not make my list, but not out of quality, but out of me feeling like I needed to watch it again before I could like properly rank it. So that on a rewatch could easily be on my list, but I just don't know, having like not being super familiar with it, having only seen it once. But I love that our 78s were both very timely for today. Mine because we just did a Daredevil book, and yours because the producer just announced that he just received the sequel script.
Oh, I didn't even hear about that.
Mm-hmm.
I've not been on Twitter today. I hadn't heard about that.
Yeah, so we're very timely this evening.
That's crazy. So it sounds like that's almost definitely going to happen.
Yeah, I think he was like, I'm scared to read it because I want it to be great. But I received it.
I mean, to be fair, just having a script doesn't mean that it will finally get made. It could wind up back in development hell, but it sounds like they're trying to fast track that and finally make that happen. I'm not sure why. I don't see that making a lot of money at this point.
It seems
way too late. I mean, that's even more of a Sin City problem. Like, it was weird when Sin City 2 came out a decade after the original and nobody cared. This is going to be like 2 decades later.
You gotta be like,
what are you doing?
Inexpensive with that movie and try to ride high on Keanu's popularity right now. That's like the only way.
Yeah.
But even then,
it seems like a really strange choice. I also always like to give that movie a lot of credit for changing as much about the source material as it does and still being a really fun, watchable movie. Like, if you're a big Hellraiser fan, if you're a big John Constantine fan or Tyne fan, that's like a lot of what they do in that movie is not what you want. But even fans of that material that I know have said, yeah, it's a good movie. It's not what I wanted. But it's one of those rare examples, like to a lesser degree, like something like The Mask, where they change a lot and the sensibilities are not the same. But they're really creative about it and they make it their own. And it's almost more of like a surface level sort of adaptation where you start with a basic concept and a couple of the trappings, and then you create your own memorable creative universe out of it. And it's nice that we got, even though it got canceled and it wasn't on long enough, it's nice that we got something closer to the source material with the Constantine TV show, which is quite good and a much better adaptation of that material.
No, I think it's exciting that we could have an Elseworld with this and probably see something a lot closer under the DCU.
Yeah, so, I guess we'll see.
Because I imagine that spins off of Swamp Thing, but we'll see.
I don't know, because there was that talk for a while that they were doing a Constantine, but like they were going to gender swap it, and I don't know if that's still on the table. I can't remember if that's pre or post Gunn. It must have been pre-Gunn because they haven't announced the project now.
I thought that was just for the Sandman show, but I don't know.
Oh, maybe it was. I'm sorry. There's so much stuff swimming in my brain.
Although now that you say that, I think there was like a race swapped Constantine movie that they were making before Gunn.
I thought it was race swapped and gender swapped.
It might have been. I thought it was just race, and it was one of the like 8 billion projects Abrams announced that didn't go anywhere.
Yeah,
but I could be wrong.
Maybe that's what it was.
So it's
because
so many things
that doesn't sound
around.
like the direction Gunn would go with it.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, at the very least, whoever it is has got to be British, yeah? Okay, what's your next one?
So
we're not going any faster. Go ahead.
So this is not the same as starting off with negative, but...
Oh, sorry. It's also weird to bring up Constantine and not say the phrase finger licking good. Okay, sorry. Your turn. Go ahead.
No, it's okay. So this is not the same.
That is one of the weirdest scenes I've ever seen. Like one of the weirdest line deliveries.
Yeah, I don't even remember that.
Oh, like, you don't?
So, yeah,
it's Balthazar when he looks almost into the lens and he goes finger licking good. And like 5 viewings, I had no idea what the hell he was saying. I had to see it with subtitles, and I was like, "That's what he's saying." Go back and watch that scene. It's a really weird line delivery.
That's awesome. Yeah. So mine
and best devil ever.
Oh, Peter Stormare.
There aren't a lot of movies with a better devil than that guy. Sorry. What?
I just remember, isn't like he steps down and there's like oil coming off his feet or something?
Yeah, and he's real creepy. And why couldn't he have been in Ghost Rider?
I don't know, but I mean, they got Peter Fonda.
Well, he didn't have to be the devil. He should have been the villain in Ghost Rider.
Oh, if you were Blackheart, that would have been way better. And it would have been way funnier if Peter Stormare was the son of Peter Fonda. They're both old people.
Okay, I keep stopping you. I apologize. Go ahead.
No, it's okay. So my 77 is, like I said, not starting off negative, but is a movie that I both like and would change almost every detail about. My number 77 is Iron Man 2, which is a movie that I like despite itself. Yeah, I mean...
He can't get his head in that. He can't get his head in that.
Exactly. All the pieces are there in that movie, but they're just slightly wrong. And I'm like, no, but this is how you fix it. But there's a lot of really good things in it. Obviously, Downey's great. The like back and forth between the characters isn't as good as the first one, and I think comes off a little bit too much like they're improvising in a bad way. but it's not like Ragnarok level. Like it can still be enjoyable.
They maybe shouldn't have tried to make it the same way they made the first one, because so much of that happened by accident. It's almost like they were trying to recreate the mess that gave them gold the first time, where what 2 really needed was a solid script that everybody stuck to at least 78, 80%.
Hmm. Yeah, probably. Well, and then you have like the obvious issues of the MCU-ness of it all, which I feel like at this point looks kind of quaint in a way, and
Yeah.
that we've gotten way worse with some of that stuff, but like it's not good in that
Well,
movie. It's
retroactively, there was a time where Iron Man 2 was their worst movie. It's not even in the bottom 5 anymore. It's
no.
maybe not in the bottom 10 anyway. Can I go that far?
I
7?
I
It's
would.
probably in the bottom 10, but it might be 10. I don't know.
I would. Yeah, no, I agree with that. I don't
Yeah.
know if it would be in the bottom 15 for me,
I will say it didn't make my list,
and I assumed it wouldn't. But
and I did consider it because of those scenes and those performances I like. Well, and the thing is, Whiplash is actually quite good. I mean, like, I like his performance a lot. He
mhm.
just doesn't have a villain plot that makes any sense. He gets exactly what he wants in the first act. I don't know why he's still doing anything. I mean, that's my big problem with him.
Yeah,
Uh,
I need him to be
and
the villain of
Hammer's
the first
awesome.
act. Hammer's awesome. I need him to be the villain of the first act, and then he either dies or kind of goes away, and then Hammer becomes the villain of the rest of the movie, where he takes that tech and runs with it. And I feel like that already is a better movie. And then replace the dying thing with just straight alcoholism, as opposed to just I'm dying, so I'm going to drink now. And then like you already have a better movie just off of that.
And especially in an era where you don't have so many superhero blockbusters every year yet, I feel like this isn't even as big of a deal these days, maybe, because these are a dime a dozen, and especially were a few years ago. But in 2010, you can't have your best action scene in the first act.
Hmm.
Like, people are going to this for a roller coaster ride, and they're not going to get a lot of those this year. Like that, you can't have your best action scene in the first act.
Hmm. No, I agree. And then I do really like the Gendy Tartakovsky
Storyboards in the third act.
storyboarded bits in the third act. Yeah, that sequence is really fun. But then how they take out Whiplash sucks, and his suit sucks because it's very clearly reshoots.
The
Uh,
best thing out of that entire action sequence for me is a one-liner.
which one's that?
You should have led with that,
Oh yeah.
which I
The
still say to this day all the time.
and the original ending's very anticlimactic, so I get why they changed it, but it's also just better.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I don't know. It's a movie that, like I said, I like despite itself. So I feel like I'm not at that point. I feel like I'm still past the point where I'm negative on my movies. It's just
No,
there's
this
ways
one's
to
almost more
be.
apologetic, where you're like, look, I had a lot of fun watching this. I know why it doesn't work.
Mhm. No, like I said, I would change most things about it, certainly. But
And
it's not changing it to the point where I'm writing a different movie. It's taking what they have and going, no, here is the very obvious thread that you should have.
see, I've complained about that movie enough that I felt almost disingenuous to include it, because I don't. At that point, I'm letting MCU take over too much. Like, I feel like I have to be really choosy
Mhm.
about what MCU movies are on my list, because there's enough good ones that you end up with a lot of spots taken.
Yeah, I mean, when you have 100, though,
Yeah,
in
no, that's
overall
true.
superhero movies, they're gonna show up.
It's in that 16. I
Mhm.
think it's in that bottom 16. If it's not, it was really close.
I knew it wouldn't make your list, so I'm not shocked. But
Well, you say that. I didn't know it wouldn't. Okay, I did not write that on this list, so maybe I did know that. But I kicked it around. But I didn't kick it around enough to write it down, so.
it's the mysterious, ghostly 17.
uh, but I completely respect that, and there's another universe where I did it too.
Yeah, and I also just like Iron Man, so like I'm also more
There you
primed
go.
to pick up on the things that I enjoy about it.
Sure, yeah. I mean, I'm gonna have Batman movies on this list that you're not, because
Yeah,
I'm too big of a. Not that you're not a Batman guy, but
absolutely. I
you
mean, we already have one with the Adam West ones.
you don't have it tattooed on me, so I win. Sorry, what?
exactly.
Or you tattooed on yourself? Did I say on you? You don't have it tattooed on yourself, so I win.
But I will have Iron Man tattooed across my chest, and then I will own
Do it.
you with that. Like, yeah, you may have Batman, but I have Iron Man too.
What's that? It's Whiplash.
Flash. The
Uh,
sharks in the water.
is it is it my turn?
Yes, you're on 76. No,
77.
77. Sorry, I'm on 76.
So I will say this very briefly
Uh-oh.
because no, it's just this is a thing that because of my own sensibilities and interests and I just really appreciating references and stuff because this is by definition a fan service kind of thing. You wouldn't include this because it's just not as big of a deal to you. And I don't think you just in general enjoy this movie as much as me, but this is going to be almost apologetic on my end too because I get why some people were not as high on this as me and Jason were, but because it counts, I felt like I had to include last year's Super Mario Brothers movie.
Oh, okay. I knew it would make your list. I actually thought it would be a little higher.
Oh,
But
interesting. It's funny you say you knew it would make my list because I added it at the 11th hour. I kind of forgot about it. And I was like, oh,
oh,
yeah,
okay.
that does count. And the reason I thought to include it was because I kicked around the original real low. And then I decided I don't actually like going back to that all that much, even though there are things about it I admire. So I didn't include it, but then I went, well, I would be remiss to not put the new one there
Hmm.
because I had a ton of fun with it, and I have this whole read on it that I talked about ad nauseum, so I won't get into it too much here. When Jason and I reviewed it, that I haven't heard a lot of other people say, which is a lot of what people didn't like about that movie is what made it work for me, where they left Mario as much of a blank slate as they did, and I thought that was really important in capturing what that character is and what and who he is to Miyamoto. And if they had been too specific and gone their own way too much with his characterization and didn't let you kind of put your own stamp on it like you do with the games, my worry was now if it's popular, now that's the definitive version of that character. And I can't have that. He's supposed to be kind of a blank slate. And so it's a very, very rare movie for me in that I liked that it's not actually about anything.
Hmm.
And I needed that with that. And I went into that movie saying if it's about too much, it doesn't work.
Hmm. No, and I'm fine with a lot of that stuff. A lot of my biggest issues with that movie is I feel like there's a lot of scenes that just kind of end too early, where I'm like, I kind of need this to go on a little bit longer. And what was the other thing I
But
was
I
going to
also
say?
respect a clean 90 minutes, man.
Yeah. There's also a lot of it that just feels like I'm watching cutscenes, and I'm like, I'd rather just go play the game, which is an issue you can have with video game things. So fair enough. Uh,
Yeah, sure. And I
yeah.
was really taken in by music and deep cut references and just how much Donkey Kong Country was in it.
Mhm.
I
Yeah, and
could
I
have used
was
more, but
softer on that movie, I would say, when I reviewed it on Letterboxd, because I walked out of it after seeing it with my brothers, and they're both big Mario people, and they were like, "Oh my God, like they did this and that and this and that," and I was like I feel like an a-hole being like, that movie sucked, but like I didn't love it, like it wasn't great, but like
yeah.
being around that made me appreciate why somebody would.
Well, and
So
again, I'm very
I also
apologetic
get.
about it because there's illumination stuff in it that I don't like, but it's so much less illumination-y than it could
That's
have
the other
been.
thing, yeah.
And that's not an accolade. That's not a thing to praise it for real hard, where it's like, well, this movie is great because it could have been worse, you know?
Mhm.
But having said that, you've got this great score, and one of the best scores to me for that composer, who I think is a real hit and miss composer, and you took out music he I can't even say wrote, but like orchestrated based on games to put in really typical illumination needle drops, and it just pisses me off. Um, like there was more Donkey Kong Country stuff, and I've heard it, and it's great, and it's really angering to me that it got replaced with their typical. I don't understand why that wasn't a mandate from Nintendo. That like you don't get to do that with this movie. We're not gonna have the same random rock songs you put in, not even random, the same 5 rock songs you put in every movie. You're not doing it with ours.
They were maybe down with that stuff. I don't know. Maybe they were like, this just shows like it's authentically going into the medium. Like this is some of the stuff we maybe need to have.
Mistake. Okay, what's your next one, sir?
My next one is like I said to you off camera, I have, with the exception of one, which was Toxic Avenger 3, I have a little bit of a 4 movie trend here with what we're doing tonight, which is Marvel movies that could easily not make the list and a lot of people don't like, but there's things in them that I like, even if they're not perfect. And this is probably where a lot of people are going to boo, but my 76 is Spider-Man 3. Uh,
Wow.
I know, I know.
Okay,
It's
how does that
wild.
even make your list?
Um, like I said when we did
Because you know how
2,
sour I am with that movie. Like, I just
I
can't
do,
even
I
deal with
do.
it. I don't want to touch it with a 10-foot pole. I don't like that movie, and I don't care what anybody says. Quit trying to turn me around on it. You're not going to do it.
And I'm not going to do that because it's got
Oh, no,
issues.
I'm not talking to you right now.
Yeah, it's got
I'm
the Iron
talking to
Man.
people that every time this comes up, send me like a 1,000 word essay about why I should turn my feelings around on it. And at this point, I've seen it too many times. It's never going to happen.
So it's got a bit of the Iron Man 2 thing where there's so many things I would change about it,
Iron
but
Man 2 is better than that movie.
I mean, probably. That was actually a big thing before we started, as I was like, I don't know if I like this placement. And then I kind of went back and forth for a second, and I went, ah, it's too late. I'm stuck.
No, it's all right.
Iron Man 2 is probably better, but um, I don't know. There's things in it that I think you can easily tweak and make a better movie out of it, but a lot of it for me is just um, the issues I have with it are issues I already have with the first 2 movies already. At least the second one for things like the romance stuff. Um, but then I also think Sam Raimi is kind of on his game with a lot of the visuals in that movie, and that helps a lot.
That's true, but that's not enough to elevate a script like that from me.
But like I said, my issue with a lot of the script is that I'm like, here's how you fix it. Like, um, I think it would be quite easy to go, okay, drop Sandman. You have Harry and Peter are kind of going at it the whole time while Peter has the black suit, and then uh, you have Venom by the end, and then you make Venom kind of a representation of both of their demons that they can't get over, and like now they have to work together to get over them. I'm like, there's like a whole theme right there you can easily work out of just what's in the movie by tweaking a couple details, and you can get that out of it very easily. But in terms of the overall movie, I just think a lot of what's there is so just on par with the other Raimi movies for me that yes, it's not as good as them, but like it's not enough of a leap down in quality. Like I already have major story issues with both the first 2 movies. Like I don't know.
Yeah. Well, and with this kind of thing, I always wonder how much of it is I'm too influenced by like younger me's opinions that I spouted for too many years, right? So that's not me saying I've come around at all on Spider-Man 3 because I haven't, but I have come down on the first 2 in certain areas at different times, right? So
Yeah.
I totally get you're saying, well, I've got all these issues with the first 2. Is 3 all that much different? For me, yeah, it's a lot different.
Which is
I
fair. Like absolutely.
Because the issues I have with 3 are either problems I had with 2 taken to the nines.
Hmm.
Because I didn't think MJ could get more insufferable. And so you have that kind of thing, but then also you have all of the flashback issues. The retconning, I cannot deal with the retconned origin
It's
thing.
really
And that
bad.
it's really bad. And that all by itself takes it off the list for me.
Hmm.
Like I couldn't begin
No,
to put a
that's
movie
completely
that does
fair.
that on the list. Stop it.
It's completely fair. Um, I also think
And
that
I'm sorry, I know I've talked about this a million times. I also don't like that Peter Parker is a murderer. He just gets lucky that he didn't kill anybody. I cannot deal with that.
yeah. I also think with all the talk about how much Sam Raimi does not like Venom, he delivered probably what would have been my favorite Venom that Sony executives then made him take out, which is my biggest issue with Venom. But like when you look into like what that was supposed to be, it's it's so good. We were so robbed.
It's been a while, but I remember bits and pieces of that.
Yeah, like the whole thing was that he would like do the face peel back thing, and then as the movie goes on, he would slowly stop doing that. Like it would just happen less and less until it just stopped entirely. And then when you get like the big, Venom comes out thing, you would see that the symbiote has just been eating Brock the whole time, and there's just a skeleton within the suit, and that's so
Oh,
cool
I
and
forgot about
creepy.
that. That's crazy.
That is awesome.
It's kind of like the opposite of a symbiotic relationship, but it's so much more interesting than the opposite of a symbiotic relationship you get with the Venom movies, which is just their roommates sharing a head. Okay.
Because what I've
Make a
always said
sitcom.
is, because
If
what
you're gonna do
I've
that,
always
just make a
said,
sitcom.
yeah,
You know what's not on my list?
the Venom movie. The Venom movies are not on my list either.
Neither of them. They're not on my list. That
And
first movie, there's fun stuff in it, but it wasn't going to make my list.
yeah,
I would have
and
put Dark Knight Rises on this before Venom, and I didn't do that either.
it also did not make my list. No, and people probably would have still been mad about Venom if that was the case. But I don't love comic book Venom enough to care. But
Yeah, that's
I've
understandable. But you know
I've
me, I'm a big Venom guy, so
when I've always said like Venom just as an idea, I would think would play off really well for a horror director like Sam Raimi, especially a guy who made Evil Dead, where you have like demonic versions of people attacking you. So to find out that he did kind of try to make that was really cool.
well, my guess was it was probably less about Venom and more about the black suit.
hmm
He probably just didn't want to do an evil Spider-Man.
Yeah, which is why he
I don't know.
basically didn't.
Yeah,
Which doesn't bother
exactly.
me either because I don't have that attachment to the black suit makes Peter evil to the point where I think we've gone too far with it at this point, and I'm kind of sick of it.
And that's fair, but you don't have to go that way. You don't have to make a joke out of it.
No, and I agree with that. I also don't like how they have it. I just mean in terms of like I don't have what a lot of people have where they're like, oh, it needs to be like Frodo with the ring, like where it's like completely uh ripping his life apart and making him evil. But so like I also get why he would not gel with that.
Oh, and you know what? The Harry Amnesia plot's one of the worst things they ever did with those movies. Wait, you get out of here with putting that on your list. God, I want you to kill Austin's list.
See, but that line right there puts it into reasons why it should be on there. Uh,
It is more redeemable because it has that line. That is true. And also, there's some great stuff in that soundtrack.
I also don't think I've ever, as a child, been able to feel my mom cringe as much as I did in the theater watching the twist egg scene with Harry and MJ.
Oh,
Like I could feel her just being like,
yeah.
"Why am I watching this? Like, why did I get dragged to this?"
But you know that fight at the beginning where he's trying to hang on to the ring, it's really well storyboarded.
Yeah, I think all the action scenes are really well done. The crane scene is one of the best Spider-Man scenes put to film, just visually.
And him versus Harry when he messes up his face, where
Yeah,
they drop the music out. It's a really good scene. I
I
don't
think
like
the
anything
climax.
about that character, but that's a really good scene.
I think the climax is super comic booky and fun. Like I don't know, everything visually Sam
I'm
Raimi wise.
coming, old buddy, old pal.
That's like the best part, yeah. And you have the old butler.
The blade that pierced his body came from his trailer.
See, for everything you can be like, this is why it's awful. There's like another thing that you can be like, here's why it's like not the worst thing
I would
ever.
understand it if you put it at 97 and in like a Superman 4 sort of place. I don't understand it this high and saying it's not that different to me than the other two Spider-Man movies.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know.
No, I'm kidding.
Fair
I'm just saying
enough.
I don't share that, but Dan
That's fair. I
Schneider.
knew I would be on my own.
Oh, sure. Yeah. Well, I'll have plenty of things like that still. Dan Schneider, $5 super chat. What is it with kids' films and lame pop songs? I never did that when I was in the business.
Sorry, what was that? Sorry, I looked away for a second.
I have to read the super chat again, Austin.
And I can go up and read it. It's fine. I just missed what he said.
He said, "What is it with kids' films and lame pop songs?"
I agree. That's stupid.
Well, but I know what it is, because for some reason it works. Like, it gets people excited in the theater. I don't understand it.
One with Mario specifically, I'm okay with it more with when they're in Brooklyn. It's once they go into the Mushroom Kingdom, it should stop. Like before that, I don't think it's as big of an issue. It's not what you want.
It always feels intrusive to me, and I don't like that it's always the same songs.
It's not even the best use of No Sleep Till Brooklyn of that year with Chris Pratt in the film.
Yeah,
I agree.
And I don't like the song at all, so I didn't need it twice. But the thing is,
wrong.
I'll never understand that whole thing. That doesn't even sound like music to me. Like, I'll never understand that. But and I had that growing up too, where like I couldn't figure that out. I went to an Offspring concert where they come on after the Offspring, and I left. Like I just I don't understand that band. Mm-hmm. Never made any sense to me. But what was I talking about? Yeah, I think what irritates me about it is it feels like emotional manipulation. It's like a laugh track. It's like, this is the place where you're supposed to get all riled up and excited, and they use the same songs because in a Pavlovian way you have been conditioned to respond a certain way when these songs play. And I hate that. And I hate that we're doing it to children. There's a real cynical thing going on there.
I don't know. I mean, you could also kind of make the same argument for playing like established franchise music, maybe in the emotional manipulation way. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying you could.
Oh, sure, you can. And there's a certain amount of emotional manipulation that's going to come with a soundtrack in general. But where it feels Pavlovian to me is it's in different franchises, but it's the same songs.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I don't like about it.
Yeah. No, I get it. I'm hip. I'm down with the kids. I get it. What is your 76?
And this is our last one for the day, is it not?
Yeah, if you want to stop at 5.
If we stop at 5. Yeah, and that's about as much time as I've got, so let's just do that.
Groovy.
Sorry we only got through 5 today, folks, but we'll try to do 10 more next time. My 76 is Kick-Ass.
Oh, okay. Our lists are going to be very different.
Oh, sure, yeah. Well,
but that's fair.
I was never in love with that movie.
I actually didn't realize that. I clearly thought you liked that movie more than you do.
Well,
interesting.
I mean, I like it a lot for what it is. It's just, it's one of those things that's not my thing in the first place.
No, fair enough. I think I assumed maybe that it was one of those things that's not for you, but wins you over well enough that you like it more than I thought you did.
It's a favorites list. It's not a movie I ever go back to.
No, that's fine.
Like, I've liked it when I've had to watch it, but I don't think to go back and sit down and watch that.
Yeah, for sure.
And I mean, the stuff I love is the stuff that everybody loves. It's shockingly well adapted because it's a lot less mean-spirited than the source material, but it doesn't feel watered down. It doesn't feel too Hollywooded. It feels like you have to go a little bit more accessible for it to even translate well to screen to be a good story. Like, I don't know if you could begin to get away with being as rough and kind of mean-spirited as that material was.
There's also just changes that are for the better. Like,
it's just,
Big Daddy and Hit Girl are a big improvement in terms of their backstory stuff.
Yeah, and I just think it's a better story all around.
Yeah, I agree. We both have Nick Cage movies tonight, too, which is awesome.
Oh, that's true. Yeah. Yeah, and the choice there to make him Adam West-esque was just kind of genius.
He does it so well.
It's really good. To the point where you almost want him to play Adam West in a biopic or something. Like,
I love the part where he says his name. I think he flips it. It's been a while since I've watched it, but I think where he's like this ass kick. So the
Oh,
way he
right,
says it
yeah.
is really funny.
Chewbacca's Lover, you really praised it when it came out. Well, I was surprised by it because I didn't expect to like it at all.
Hmm.
Like, I was kind of, I was kind of dreading going to the theater to see that movie,
Well,
and
and if
I came out on kind of a high because I actually enjoyed myself.
mhm. And I mean, I think we all could have said that this wouldn't be your highest Matthew Vaughn movie on your list too.
Right. And if this were like best superhero stories on film, it's a lot higher. Like this would be in the top 50 of those
Hmm.
at least. But I ordered this more as movies that I want to sit down and put in right now.
Hmm.
It's
Yeah, absolutely.
76 for those. I never put it in.
Hmm. We should have gotten Matthew Vaughn on Spider-Man at some point. People wouldn't want that now because I'm like the only person who likes Matthew Vaughn now. But
Yeah. And Hit Girl's super cool.
she's
And
great.
I it's kind of sad that her career didn't go the direction I thought it was going to. But
Hmm. Well, I can't remember if we've talked about this, but that's a movie I used to watch at my dad's house like a lot, a lot. Like I feel like almost every weekend I was at his house, we were watching Kick-Ass, and it was amazing. And like we would all blast the Banana Split song like at
yeah,
movies because it's so good.
it's so good. No, that's a really neat scene.
Yeah.
And it's one of the better like superheroes in the real world kind of movies in walking the line between being a heightened thing that doesn't feel like it could really happen, but being relatively more realistic than what you typically think of for a superhero movie. Like
Hmm.
it it I it sets a really good internal logic, and it also walks the line between comedy and drama really well. Like it is a straight up comedy, but it does a really good job of creating a good dramatic narrative and staying really sober with it.
Yeah, I agree. 100%. And I'll also throw out, I also really like the Kick-Ass comics too. I think I've only read three once, so I don't remember it super well, but even two, which a lot of people didn't like.
Well, to be fair, I haven't read those in a really long time either, so I'm going off of like decade plus year old memories. So Dan
Yeah,
Schneider could totally be right if I went back and reread it. He put in a $10 super chat. Thanks
and
for
I
the
actually don't
support
agree.
tonight. And he says the comic ending was better. He's still a psychopath who made his daughter a murderer. In the comic, they acknowledge he's a monster. Movie thinks it's charming and the relationship is sweet somehow. Yeah, but I always saw it as again relative to his ethics and the way he sees the world, and like I don't think we're supposed to look at it through our lens. I think we're supposed to look at it through his. And like, yeah, he is kind of screwed up and damaged, but looking at it through his lens and the way he's seeing the world, it does feel that way. And what grounds it and creates a sense of perspective is his cop friend who keeps saying this is all wrong. If
No,
you
and
don't have that character, then you're right.
yeah. Well, I think the relationship's also just really funny. Um,
Yeah,
yeah, I don't agree with it being better in the comic. I also don't like that in the comic he's just like a comic book geek that decided to kill people.
yeah. Giving him a military background is much smarter.
Well, because that's what he says his background is in the comic, and then big reveal is that it's not. And I think it works better for the movie that it just is his background,
Well,
that he
and
was a cop.
you buy that he can accomplish everything he's accomplishing.
Yeah, exactly. And a lot of it too is just both of those actors kill it.
Yeah, and I also think that on the kick ass side as well as the hit girl side, they're both kind of messed up, damaged kids.
Hmm. Yeah, I agree.
And so like a lot of the comedy comes from this is all like a bad idea, and initially they don't get that, and like he gets a dose of reality very quickly, but keeps coming back and doing it, which makes him like naive and endearing at the same time,
Hmm. Yeah, yeah, exactly.
which I like a lot. But like I said, that balance I think is really good. And I always respected it for going as big in comic book at the end and actually doing the jetpack, because there's kind of this question, and I also like making the jetpack a big reveal. It was like, there's a thing in this box. What's in the box? And then that's what it is. And there's this kind of question all through the third act, like, just how big will this movie allow itself to go? Like, we don't really know how heightened and crazy that world is going to be. And then we pull the curtain back and we go, we're going to go this far. And it does still feel like it fits the rest of the movie. I always really appreciated that ending.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, and Kick-Ass gets knocked out to the climax, like the Hobbit. It's really funny. No, all that stuff works really well for me, and it's also like one of the only places I really love Aaron Taylor Johnson.
Yeah,
I feel like I'm waiting for him to be in a movie that I'm like, this guy's awesome, just kick ass.
You're not gonna get it this year.
No,
you're not gonna get it from Craven.
They keep casting him in like really boring roles, and I'm sure.
And if he had stuck around as Quicksilver, maybe eventually you would have had it with that. But who knows?
Maybe. I really don't like Quicksilver in Age of Ultron, so I don't know if I would have gotten that. But maybe.
Yeah, I don't love him either. But Dan Steiner put in another $10 super chat and says, "Revenger against the killers is fine. We do that in a million action movies. You can't make him making the daughter go out and kill people sympathetic. That inherently makes you an irredeemable monster." And I mean, I don't want to keep arguing the same point, but I still feel the same way about it. Where like, I think he's.
I mean, it's also a heightened enough movie that it's not like, I don't know.
He is technically irredeemable, absolutely, but I'm sympathizing with him through like dictionary definition sympathetic protagonist, where I see he's not exactly the protagonist, but you know what I mean. Where I see how he got the way he is and why, from his ethical bent and the lens of the way he sees the world, why he thinks what he's doing is necessary and okay. And so I have a separation, I have a disconnect where if I met that guy on the street, or if I went to the courtroom and I was a juror, I would say he is guilty and should go to prison. But watching him with the fictional wall up and then getting in his head as well as I do, I am finding him charming within a context, but it's a perverse context. So it's perverse charming, I guess is what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm. That's
and
like
the comic, I think you're just supposed to be disgusted.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, exactly. And like I said, I like both. I like that aspect in the movie a bit more.
But I also can see why that would be a bridge too far for people. And I know folks had that, and I struggled with this when I wrote about it in the Rewind, where I'm like, this movie is reveling so much in its violence, and it's with a child doing, a couple of children, but especially like a little girl that is, hasn't even gone through puberty yet, and she's like, straight up killing people. Like, is it wrong that I'm enjoying this? And what I found interesting about it is I have to work my way backwards and try to explain why it's working and why I'm enjoying it. And when a movie works that way on me, where I feel kind of icky and it feels kind of perverse that I'm having fun with it and I have to try to explain it, it's doing something right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's because it's so much fun, Jan. That's just the way it is.
It's just the way it is. I'll go ahead and read his last comment real quick, since he gave us so much support tonight. He says, there is that you don't condone it, but you are sort of with the person killing bad guys. But I feel the thing with Hit Girl goes too far for what they want this character to be. And yeah, I just was surprised that I didn't have that experience with it, because I felt like I should feel that way about it. And that's part of what I was impressed with, is that it won me over as well as it did on that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly.
But anyway, well, once again, Dan Schneider, thanks for all the help tonight, and thanks everybody for watching. Thanks to other super chatters, and we're gonna go ahead and get going because I have a bunch of stuff to do this evening. But next week we will come back and go probably a little bit longer and see if we can knock down 10 more at least. That'd be really good. As always, we want to say thanks to all of our patrons, but especially our Patreon producers, and I just got to pull the list up here real quick. Patreon is irritating because it defaults to the member section if you're supporting anybody, even if you're a creator. And so it's got different tabs on the sides, and I won't notice it until I get too far in, and then I'm like, oh, I got to go back, and I got to toggle it. I got to toggle it to the right section, and it's just annoying.
Damn Patreon.
Well, I mean, don't say that. You know, it does help pay the bills, but
I mean, you like the code, you ought to know you bought it.
the TV's plan. So one of the perks you get as a Patreon producer, a $10 tier or more, is I read your name at the end of every Rewind video, and these count, so I'm going to do it right now. Thanks a bunch to Breezy Hemi and Jesse Surtees, Chewbacca's Lover, Doctor Hello, Goofster123, Joe Turner, Jajira, John Matthew McLean, Super Billy, Vic Apocalypse, Victor, those are, I'm assuming, not the same person, Abic Stark, Adam March, Damon Begay, Hot Soup, Invisipig, John Sandoval, Kareem Roberts, a new name, Kate Blaze, or is it Blase? I can't remember what her last name is, but she's one of our new writers in the writers group. And Matt Bat 68, Matthew Brody, Michael Martin, Miguel Rodriguez, This Guy is the Day Ghost, Unknown Passenger, and Wendell Jones. And I'll be reading that exact list unless something changes tomorrow night on the Superhero Rewind Commentary Project, and we're going to be tackling The Phantom, so look forward to that. And we're going to be starting at 10 or a little bit Central Time, or a little bit after, because I've got a writers meeting tomorrow night, and they tend to go long. But the good news is it's a short movie, so even if we start a little bit late, it won't be crazy late.
Can I make a request for tomorrow that you won't do, and that's okay?
Well, it sounds like you really want to say it, so go ahead.
Can you and Jason come together with your band in order tomorrow to play a parody of You're So Vain called You're So Billy Zane? I bet you think you are the Phantom.
I don't think I can get it together that fast, but
I didn't think so.
We should work on that as a thing for later. I wish you'd suggested
that one in the back pocket.
You're so vain. You probably think you're Billy Zane. Is that how it goes?
Well, I was thinking like You're So Zane. I bet you think that you are the Phantom.
Oh, that's what you said. I bet you think you are the Phantom. You're so Zane. The only reason I'm saying no is because I don't have time to write it. Like, I actually think that's really funny. Dan Sten says, slam evil cap. All we're going to do for an hour and 40 minutes tomorrow night is make fun of that tagline.
Did someone at least say it in the movie, or is it just on the poster?
No, it's not just on no, nobody says it in the movie.
Oh.
It has nothing to do with anything. It's like, it just screams, we don't know how to sell this movie.
Mm-hmm.
And it's during the pod craze, so I have a hard time not thinking it has something to do with that. I'm sure it doesn't, but I just don't know why that name, like, it's so weird. Slam evil. Okay.
Well, now I want somebody to take that out and replace it with now in pog form. the tagline.
No, it's really
the Phantom,
bizarre.
He's back in pog form.
But it's not only, like, yeah, why is the Phantom's signature weapon no longer dual firearms? It's Pog Slammers. But it's not only on the poster, it's also on the box. It was on the VHS tape, it's on the DVD, it's on the Blu-ray. Maybe it's not on the Blu-ray.
Written on the disc.
It's on the DVD. It should have been. It should have been that thing where it's more prominent than the title, so we all just call the movie Slam Evil.
You go into the menu and there's like a little, but you know, like when they used to have Easter eggs on DVD menus where you could like you move the glow into something that's not there,
Move the glow.
and then you find like little Easter eggs. Like that would be one. Like you move the glow onto the Slam Evil button, and then it plays like a little clip of Billy
Move the
Zane
glow
dancing.
to the Slam Evil button.
There are buttons that are hidden. Move the glow in random directions to find the hidden buttons.
Random directions. Now I want Joe Pesci to be on the DVD menu. Anyway, thanks for watching, everybody. We'll see some of you guys tomorrow night. In the meantime, I was Captain Logan. This was Austin the Day Ghost.
Bye, everybody.
Good night, folks.